Hey, welcome back to another video. Dunking on bad games has been a pretty popular pastime online for many a year now. And I get it, it can be a pretty fun time. I've been known to do it myself from time to time. However, I'm also a firm believer in the idea that you can find something good about any piece of media, no matter how bad it is. Well, unless it's something that's actively and intentionally spreading some kind of hateful ideal, in which case it deserves none of the effort to go through to find good things to say about it. But for things that are bad simply due to being lacking in good, I think you can always find some kind of silver lining. So today I'm going to take a look at a handful of games that are generally considered bad, or just that I personally think suck eggs, and give them some credit for the things that they actually do well. Now, these should not be confused for redeeming factors. These games are not good simply because of their handful of bright spots. At the end of the day, they're still bad. This is just an exercise in finding a little bit of positivity in a lot of negativity. A diamond in the rough, if you will. Or at least a dime in the dumpster. Let's start out nice and non-controversial with some games that I think pretty much everyone would agree are less than stellar, to put it lightly. The Zelda CDI games are pretty well known for their awfulness at this point. For me to go in depth would go beyond beating a dead horse and be more like grinding said horse into dust. The awkward controls that have you pressing up to jump, the weird bullshit they have you do like collecting a bunch of snowballs or bombing a rock a bunch of times that shows no indication of breaking, the cutscenes.
How about a kiss? For luck.
You've got to be kidding.
I'm not exactly breaking new ground here. That said, these games, at least Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon anyway, do deserve credit for having a pretty solid soundtrack. It's not to the level of your standard Zelda game, but there are some pretty good tunes to be found here. It feels like the music is where all the time and care and expertise was actually put, because it certainly didn't go into the gameplay. Additionally, I personally find it hard not to consider the cutscenes some kind of positive, just because of their intense so bad it's good energy.
Oh my goodness, this is awful!
They certainly aren't conventionally good, but the sheer entertainment value they provide has gotta be worth something. Incidentally, did you know that the contemporary reviews for these games actually weren't universally bad? They were actually a little bit more on the mixed side, with a few even being glowingly positive, though the praise was usually saved almost entirely for the game's presentation. The most bizarre review that I found was from the Dutch magazine Power Unlimited, who gave it a 90 but also called it unplayable? Game journalists are a different breed, dude.
You've killed me!
Good.
In a similar vein, we have Mega Man X6, oft considered to be the worst Mega Man X game, if not the outright worst Mega Man game, period. I just did a whole video on the X series recently and gave this game its due diligence, so I won't go over everything here, but suffice to say that it is truly awful. You got awkward level design that makes it feel like the game was barely tested, the nightmare system adding a bunch of irritating gimmicks to the already bad stages, and an English localization that's so poor, it genuinely reads like it was just fed into Google Translate circa 2010, rather than handled by real people. It really is a total shit show. But like the CDI Zelda games, it's home to a genuinely incredible soundtrack that almost makes up for the rest of X6's many shortcomings. I mean, actually playing it is still totally miserable, but at least you'll get to hear some rocking tunes while you deal with the game's nonsense. Like I said in that video, even if you never play X6, and you really shouldn't if you value your sanity, it's very much worth checking out the soundtrack. It stacks up there with the best of the series. Ender Lilies, Quietest of the Nights is another one I've talked about pretty recently, having covered it in my video on games that I wish I loved. The gist of it is that the experience of playing Ender Lilies is among the least fun things I've ever had to deal with. The game is heavily hampered by its absurd difficulty, which comes more from awkward enemy placement and fucked up damage values than something actually challenging. Plus, you get terrible bosses like the one that just spawns a bunch of enemies that you've got to deal with. It's just not a fun kind of challenge to me. I've given Ender Lilies several attempts and it just always rubs me the wrong way. And that is a shame because it actually has a lot going for it. The visuals are incredible, for one. It's got this almost Victorian-era look to it, all these dark grays and gloomy colors really conveying this oppressive atmosphere of dread all over the game. It looks like a bad mood, and I say that as a compliment. I also really love the game's lore, or at least what I can get out of it before I get sick of actually playing the game. I won't go into detail here because it really is a joy kind of uncovering everything, but it's such a dour and frankly depressing world where seemingly everybody's lives went to total shit real fast thanks to the blight spreading throughout Land's End. Practically every boss has some tragic story to them, and it's really good stuff. You feel bad for like everyone. To me, the first like hour or so of the game basically goes in stages as you realize exactly how fucked everything is here. The first area is all run down and dilapidated, and there's these amazingly grotesque monsters. Then you fight the first boss and head outside and think, oh, maybe it's a little nicer out here, only to be met with more gray and monsters. Eventually, there's a town, and even though you've seen neither hide nor hair of anyone who's not a monster or dead, there's a part of you that wonders maybe, just maybe, there's some safe bastion here. But no. The town is in ruins, and the populace are all either dead or turned into these things. And that's when it fully settles in that this is just what this world is like. Normally I hate these kinds of everything sucks and we're all miserable crapsack world kind of stories, but something about Ender Lilies really grabs me with its vibe and lore. It's a miserable feeling that takes over, but for some reason I really like that about the game. It's exactly the tone I usually hate, but it works here and I could not tell you why. The music drives that point home even further. Yeah, we're talking music again, but I can't help it if a surprising number of poor games have really good music. Ender Lilies' soundtrack was done by the Japanese band Millie, who you likely know from their work on some anime like Goblin Slayer and Vermilion Gold. I've never seen either of them, so I don't know. Also Limbus Company, which I understand is popular. And it's some truly breathtaking work. Many of the songs are simultaneously beautiful and haunting, really driving home the overbearing feeling of misery baked into the game's world. Harmonious, in particular, jammed itself right into my brain the second I heard it and has never left. It's pretty calming, but then Cassie Way's vocals come in and it just becomes deeply unsettling at the same time, and yet I keep going back to it. The Witch's Breath is another really good tune. On the surface, it sounds almost upbeat, but there's an undeniable sound of sadness to it as well. It makes me think of somebody who seems happy, but you can just sort of tell that they're only pretending to be happy. Even the titles of songs on the soundtrack contribute to the game's dour mood. Two of the songs are literally called Helplessness and Abandonment. All of these things come together to make a game with an incredible atmosphere that somehow appeals to me despite me not usually liking stuff like this, but it just is not a fun game to play. And ultimately, your story doesn't matter, your visuals don't matter, and your music doesn't matter if the game isn't fun to play. And that's the real tragedy of Ender Lilies. The game's sequel, Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist, was really good though, although it didn't have the same kind of mood that I really liked from this game. Everything else is pretty much way better though. Syd of Valis is a game I heard a good bit about once I got a little deeper into the retro gaming scene online. In case you're unfamiliar, Valis is a series of side-scrolling action games that originally debuted on the NEC PC-88, a series of Japanese home computers. The roots of the series aren't super relevant here, but if you want to know more, then check out the video Basement Brothers did on the original game. It's a really good video, and there's just a lot of really good stuff on that channel too. I'm certain my small channel will give them just an influx of views. Syd of Valis on Genesis is, for all intents and purposes, a port of Valis 2 with a cutesy, chibi art style. I often heard that this game was total ass, but that sounded really odd to me. After all, Valis 2 is apparently good, and if this game is basically that but chibi, then surely this can't be that bad. Then the Valis collection started coming out on Switch, and I finally played this one, and whoa, yeah, this game's really, really bad. Just looking at it, you can already see that you're way too close to the edge of the screen, so it's super easy to be blindsided by enemies. Luckily, you can actually easily avoid this, since if you just hold down the attack button and run to the right, Yuko will endlessly fire projectiles, and since most enemies go down in a couple of hits, the game ends up pretty fucking brainless a lot of the time. I don't exactly mind an easy game, but come on, I'm not even thinking here. The bosses are the only enemies that might provoke some actual brain activity, but even then there's ways to cheese a lot of them, like how you can just stay on this ledge and utterly destroy the first boss. The game controls like shit too. Movement is fine enough, but as soon as you leave the ground, I'm feeling like root beer and vanilla ice cream. Floaty. Platforming is super problematic since what you need to land on is often only as wide as you are, so it's very easy to over or undercorrect and fall into a pit. Thankfully, when you fall, you just bounce back out and take some damage, but it's very possible to keep falling, especially if there's enemies around, because the knockback is kind of absurd. Unlike the previous games in this video, there's not even any respite in the soundtrack, because the music is abysmal here. All the worst stereotypes of Genesis music are present here. It's harsh, atonal, grating nonsense that only serves to make the already agonizing experience of the game even worse. So yeah, Syd of Valis sucks pretty damn hard, and if I'm real, it was a struggle to pick out some positives here, but I did manage to find a couple very, very small ones. One really minor one is that it actually makes me appreciate Valis 4 a little more. Valis 4 was pretty solidly my least favorite of the series, but hell, at least it had good music and didn't control like a paper bag on the wind. Syd of Valis also doesn't look half bad, honestly. Sure, for a 1992 release, it's not exactly mind-blowing, but it's pleasant, if a little basic in a year that also saw the release of Sonic 2, Thunder Force 4, and Splatterhouse 2, but it ain't half bad. The chibi art style is decently cute, and for a Genesis game, it's pretty colorful. It's not quite to the level of, say, Magical Taruruto, which also came out in 1992, by the way, but given the Genesis's overall tendency to use darker colors, it really does stand out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said at the start, the positives about a bad game aren't always going to be big. Sometimes you gotta take what you can get. Okay, let's end off with one last game. Metroid Other M is one that's pretty personal to me, as I really love the Metroid series, and I have routinely called this my least favorite game of all time. On a purely technical level, I have played significantly worse games, but none of them stick in my craw quite like this. It manages to provide not only a truly horrendous story full of barely existent characters, moronic choices from said characters, and a truly pointless subplot with all of the deleter nonsense, but also a fundamental misunderstanding of Metroid as a series, given that the game likes to completely railroad you and block off pathways that won't take you to your objective. God forbid you try to explore in a Metroid game. Metroid Fusion was pretty linear, sure, but at least it would let you explore. You could go to Sector 1 even if the game was telling you to go to Sector 5. Other M railroads you the whole way through. If it wants you in Sector 1, that's where you're going, because it will straight up stop you from taking the elevators to Sector 2 or 3. Add in some real fuck-ass clunky controls, because not only did they decide that this 3D action game should be played entirely with the Wii Remote held horizontally, you also have to engage in Metroid Prime-esque first-person sequences where you're rooted to the ground because the dick wizards that designed this game figured you didn't need a nunchuck. And that's not even mentioning the dumbass individual moments, like not getting the Varia suit until you fight the fucking boss of Sector 3, so you've been taking damage from the extreme heat the whole time, because Adam can't be bothered to authorize its use until literally the last fucking second. I'm getting frustrated just talking about it. God, I hate this fucking game. Despite all my vitriol towards it though, even this repugnant cyst of code has some spots of relief. Continuing our recurring theme, we once again have some pretty solid music here. Most of it is on the atmospheric side, so it's not something you'll really jam out to, but it takes the edge off the otherwise terrible gameplay experience. The main standout track is the remix of Ridley's theme, no question. While everything that leads up to this is both truly idiotic in gameplay and story, during the fight you're treated to probably the best version of Ridley's theme in the franchise. I genuinely love this song. And there is another truly good thing about Other M, that being its visuals. It looks damn good, especially for a Wii game, and even more especially if you compare it to Metroid Prime 3, which was on the same system, albeit 3 years prior. And that's not to say that Prime 3 looks bad, it doesn't, but Other M is on a whole other level. The environments are nicely detailed, they got a good set of colors going on, although Sector 3 is a little bland since it's lots of brown and red, and the character models are pretty damn good too. The game's pre-rendered cutscenes are especially of note, in particular the opening scene which recounts the ending of Super Metroid. Watching this the first time, it almost seems like you're in for a good game. It's a really cool scene. And then you're taken out of it pretty much the instant you hear Samus speak, with all the emotion of me when I drop a fork on the floor.
Mother, time to go.
But still, it looks neat at least. So, you know, as long as you just look at or listen to Other M, then it's actually kind of tolerable. Just, don't actually play it. But I think it just goes to prove my initial point that, even in a game I despise more than any other, I'm still very capable of finding and appreciating little things that are good. Even if it's just as simple as a game looking pretty alright, or having a few decent tunes present, or just trying some interesting mechanic, there's always something good to be found. Again, with the exception of that little caveat I mentioned at the start of the video. So the next time you're playing some piece of shit like Syd of Valis and rightly dumping on all the things it fucks up, try balancing things out a bit and looking for something neat. It's a lot more fun than just being negative all the time, I promise you. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, I really appreciate it. That's gonna be it from me. I hope you have a great day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you guys next time.